The great crystal hall of the Galaxy Council was very quiet today. Jinwoo walked slowly to the center of the room where all the alien leaders could see him clearly. His black shoes made soft sounds on the smooth floor that looked like it was made from rainbow-colored glass. For 3 long years, humans had been part of this huge space government. They always tried to be good members. They always said yes when the older alien races told them what to do. They never argued or complained about anything. The aliens thought humans were like children who needed to be taught everything. Today something was different. Jinwoo stood very straight in his dark blue suit. His face looked serious and calm, but inside his heart was beating fast. He had been planning this moment for many months. He looked around at all the strange creatures sitting on floating chairs and crystal platforms. There were the Veltari, who looked like giant bugs with 6 legs and big round eyes. There were the water creatures from the deep ocean worlds who sat in special tanks full of blue liquid. There were beings made of pure light that flickered like candles in the wind. And there were many other aliens that humans had only dreamed about in old science fiction movies. All of them were staring at Jinwoo, wondering why he looked so serious. Usually when humans spoke at these meetings, they asked for help or permission to do something simple. Today felt completely different. Jinwoo cleared his throat and began to speak. His voice was strong and clear, and the translation machines quickly changed his words into hundreds of different alien languages. The Human Federation is leaving the Galaxy Council, he said. We will no longer be part of your government. We will no longer follow your rules. We will no longer ask for your permission to do things. We are going home, and we will take care of ourselves. From now on, the reaction was immediate and loud. Veltar, the big bug leader, jumped up from his floating platform. His 6 legs moved quickly as he pointed at Jinwoo with one of his sharp claws. What are you saying? He shouted. You cannot leave. You need us. We protect you. We teach you. We give you technology and trade agreements. Without us, you will die in space. Jinwoo did not move. He did not look scared or worried. He just smiled a little bit. Thank you for teaching us many things, he said. We learned a lot from you, but now we want to try doing things our own way. The water creatures started making bubble sounds in their tanks. The light beings flickered faster and brighter. The room filled with alien voices, all talking at the same time, in languages that sounded like music or storms or breaking glass. Captain So Young stepped forward to stand next to Jinwoo. She was wearing her military uniform with shiny buttons and badges. Her hand moved to the communication device on her belt. All human ships and people in council space must leave immediately, she announced. This is Operation Independence. All humans, return home now. The aliens could not believe what they were hearing. Never in 10,000 years had any species just walked away from the Galaxy Council. Usually when new species joined, they were so happy and grateful that they would do anything. The council asked. Some of the alien leaders started laughing. They thought this was some kind of joke or mistake. Humans were known for being silly sometimes. Maybe they did not understand what they were saying. But Jinwoo and So Young did not laugh. They did not smile. They did not take back their words. Instead, they turned around and started walking toward the exit. Wait, called out Thexra, who was the leader of a warrior race that looked like giant lizards with metal armor. You cannot just leave like this. We have contracts, we have agreements, we have laws. Jinwoo stopped walking, but he did not turn around. Our lawyers already checked everything, he said. We are not breaking any laws. We are using our right to leave whenever we want. Your own council rules say that any member can quit at any time. And with that, Jinwoo and So Young walked out of the Great Crystal Hall. Within minutes, the communication networks were buzzing with activity. Human ships all across council space received the same message. Leave now. Take everything that belongs to us. Do not leave anything behind. The aliens watched in amazement as humans moved faster than anyone thought possible. On the trade station near the Veltari homeworld, the human merchants, Minho and Yunji, quickly packed up their shops. They loaded everything onto their ships and flew away before the station. Security could even ask what was happening. On the research planet where humans had been studying alien technology, Dr. Kyung-soo and his team gathered all their equipment and data. They destroyed their laboratories so nothing would be left behind. Then they climbed into their ships and disappeared into hyperspace on the military base where humans had been training with alien soldiers. Captain Boram ordered all human troops to return to their ships. The alien commanders tried to stop them, but the humans just walked past them like they were not even there. This was happening on dozens of worlds and hundreds of space stations, all at the same time. Human families packed their belongings. Human workers left their jobs. Human students walked out of their schools. Human diplomats closed their offices. The speed and organization was incredible. It was like watching a perfectly planned dance where everyone knew exactly what to do and when to do it. Back in the council hall, the alien leaders were starting to panic. This was not supposed to happen. Young species were supposed to be grateful for the chance to be part of the Great Galaxy Council. They were supposed to need help and protection. They were supposed to stay forever. But humans were different, and the aliens were just beginning to understand how different they really were. Veltar called an emergency meeting. All the council leaders gathered around a big table covered with screens and holograms showing human ships leaving council space. "Look at this," he said, pointing at the displays. "They are not running away in fear. They are not confused or lost. They know exactly where they are going." The screen showed human ships moving in perfect formation toward the edge of council territory. They flew in straight lines at exactly the right speed to avoid any problems with other space traffic. It was like they had planned these escape routes years ago. "How did they organize all this so quickly?" asked one of the water creatures. The wise one, who was the oldest member of the council and could speak directly into other minds without using words, sent a thought to everyone. Perhaps they have been planning this for a very long time. Perhaps they were never really the helpless children we thought they were, as the last human ship disappeared from council space. The alien leaders sat in silence. They had always believed that their 10,000-year-old government was the best thing in the galaxy. They thought every species would want to be part of it forever. But for the first time in their long history, a species had looked at their great council and decided it was not good enough. The humans were gone and nobody knew what they were planning to do next. 3 months had passed since the humans left, and the great crystal hall felt different now. There were empty seats where human diplomats used to sit. The air felt strange and worried, like when a storm is coming but you cannot see the clouds yet. Alien leaders had called another emergency meeting, but this time nobody was laughing about the human departure. What had seemed like a silly mistake was now looking like something much more serious. Thexra, the lizard warrior leader, stood up and slammed her metal-clawed hand on the speaking platform. The sound echoed through the hall like thunder. "We should have stopped them," she roared. Her yellow eyes glowed with anger and her sharp teeth showed when she spoke. "The humans have dangerous things," she continued. "They have something called the Internet that can connect all computers everywhere. They have weapons we do not understand. They have ships that move faster than ours should. We let them walk away with all of this knowledge." The other council members shifted nervously in their seats or tanks or floating platforms. The Veltari bug creatures clicked their mandibles together, making worried sounds. The water beings made bubbles in their tanks. The light creatures flickered like candles in the wind. Admiral Krex, who commanded all the council military forces, looked very uncomfortable. He was a tall gray alien with 4 arms and no hair. His skin looked like smooth stone, but today it seemed pale and worried. "During the 3 years humans were here," he said slowly, "we shared many secrets with them. We told them about our military bases. We showed them our trade routes. We gave them maps of all our territories. We thought they needed this information to stay safe." The wise one, who was older than anyone could remember, sent worried thoughts into all their minds. "I have been thinking about this for many weeks." The human diplomat Haye Jin always asked very specific questions. She wanted to know exactly how many ships we had. She wanted to know where our weapons were stored. She wanted to know which planets were most important to us. The other council members looked at each other with growing fear. They remembered Haye Jin well. She had seemed so curious and eager to learn. They had been happy to teach her everything she wanted to know. Now they wondered if she had been collecting information for a different reason. Scientist Queldin, who studied technology for the council, activated a holographic display that showed empty human facilities across council space. The images were shocking. Every human building, office, laboratory, and living space had been completely emptied. "Look at this," he said, pointing at the images. They did not leave anything behind. Not one computer. Not one piece of equipment. Not one scrap of paper with writing on it. They took everything that could be useful and left only empty rooms. The display showed dozens of worlds where humans had lived and worked. For 3 years, these places had been busy with human activity. Now they looked like ghost towns. Everything valuable was gone, but the buildings were still clean and undamaged. This was not a panic escape. Queldan continued. This was a carefully planned operation. They knew exactly what to take and what to leave. They had lists prepared, they had moving schedules ready, they had transportation arranged. Admiral Krex pulled up another display showing the movement patterns of human ships during their departure. The paths the ships took were marked in bright blue lines across a map of council space. "Look at these flight patterns," he said. Every ship knew exactly where to go. Every group met at specific points in space. They organized into larger fleets and then disappeared toward the edge of our territory. This level of coordination takes months of planning, maybe even years. Veltar, the bug leader, rubbed his compound eyes with his front legs. "I am starting to think we never really knew the humans at all. They always seemed so grateful for our help. They always asked permission before doing anything. They always acted like they needed our protection. But what if that was all pretend?" asked Thexra. "What if they were only acting weak so we would trust them and tell them our secrets?" The room fell silent as this terrible idea sank in. The council had always prided itself on being wise and careful about new member species. They had procedures and tests and observation periods, but had the humans somehow fooled them completely? The wise one shared another disturbing thought with the group. "I have been reviewing all the meetings and conversations we had with human representatives. They were very good at asking questions, but they rarely gave detailed answers about their own capabilities." Admiral Krex nodded grimly. "Their military representative, Captain So Young, attended every briefing about council defense systems. She said it was so humans could coordinate better with our forces. But now, I wonder if she was studying our weaknesses." More holographic displays appeared showing human activities during their 3 years in council space. The patterns were becoming clear now. Humans had visited every major council world. They had attended every important meeting. They had gained access to every significant database. "Dr. Min Ho was our chief science liaison," said Keldin. "He spent months in our most advanced research facilities. We showed him technologies that took us centuries to develop. We thought we were helping a primitive species catch up to modern standards." Thexra growled low in her throat. What if they were never primitive? What if their technology was already as good as ours, or maybe even better? What if they just wanted to see what we had learned that they had not thought of yet? The possibility was terrifying. The Council had always been the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. They had never encountered a species that could match their technology and knowledge. But what if the humans had been quietly more advanced all along? Counselor Zephyra from the Crystal People suddenly spoke in a voice like breaking glass. "I just remembered something. The human trader Jae Sung once mentioned casually that Earth had over 7 billion people living on it. We thought this was impossible for such a primitive world. But what if it was true? 7 billion people on one planet was an enormous number. Most council worlds had populations in the millions. The idea that humans had managed to organize and feed and house billions of people suggested a level of social and technological development that was almost unimaginable." The wise one sent out another thought wave. "What disturbs me most is that we still do not know where they went. When our scouts try to follow their ship trails, the paths just disappear as if the humans knew exactly how to hide their destination." Admiral Krex activated his personal communicator and spoke quickly to his intelligence officers. After a few minutes, he looked up with a worried expression. "Our deep space monitors have detected no human ships anywhere in Council territory or the surrounding regions. It is as if they have vanished completely, but that is impossible," said Veltar. "Thousands of human ships cannot just disappear. There are only so many directions they could have gone. We should be able to track them, unless, said Thexra thoughtfully, they had secret bases prepared. Unless they had been planning safe places to go long before they announced they were leaving. Unless everything they did here was part of a much bigger plan. The council members sat in worried silence as the full scope of their situation became clear. The humans had not simply left in anger or disappointment. They had executed a carefully planned withdrawal that suggested months or years of preparation. Even worse, the humans had taken with them detailed knowledge of council capabilities, territories, and weaknesses. They knew everything about the council, but the council knew almost nothing about them. As the meeting ended, the alien leaders realized they faced a completely new situation. For 10,000 years, the Galaxy Council had been the dominant power in their region of space. No species had ever successfully challenged them or even tried to avoid their influence. But now somewhere out in the vast darkness of space, the humans were doing something. The council had no idea what it was, where it was happening, or when they might find out. Where the first time in their long history, the Galaxy Council felt afraid. 6 months had passed since the humans vanished, and the Galaxy Council was getting reports that made no sense at all. The reports came from the far edge of space, from places the council had never bothered to visit, because they seemed too primitive. And unimportant Admiral Krex stood before a massive holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. The blue dots represented council worlds and territories, but now there were new red dots appearing in regions that had always been empty or ignored. These red dots are species that have suddenly become much more advanced, he explained to the emergency assembly. His 4 gray arms moved quickly as he pointed to different areas of the display. In the last few months, we have detected massive technology, upgrades happening on worlds we never even knew existed. The alien leaders stared at the display in confusion. How could primitive worlds suddenly become advanced? It usually took thousands of years for species to develop space travel and energy, weapons and advanced manufacturing. Veltar. The bug leader clicked his mandibles nervously. What kind of upgrades are we talking about? He asked. Admiral Krex activated another display showing detailed scans of several worlds. The images were shocking. Planets that had barely discovered electricity 6 months ago now had orbital shipyards and defensive satellites and energy shields. The planet Keith 4 was using stone tools and living in caves. When our last survey was done 3 years ago, he said, pointing to one image. Now look at it. They have cities with buildings made of advanced materials. They have spacecraft patrolling their system. They have technology that matches our own. Similar transformations were happening on dozens of worlds across the Outer Rim regions. It was as if someone was going from planet to planet, sharing advanced knowledge and helping primitive species leap forward thousands of years in just a few months. But who could do such a thing? Asked Thexra, the lizard warrior leader. And why would anyone want to help so many unknown species? The answer came from Counselor Nex Ori, who was in charge of council intelligence gathering. His species looked like walking trees with bark-like skin and glowing green eyes. He had, been very quiet during recent meetings, but now he had disturbing news to share. We have identified the source of these upgrades, he announced. The room fell silent as everyone waited to hear what he had discovered. Our deep space spy networks have detected human activity on 37 different worlds in the Outer Rim regions. The silence stretched longer as the implications sank in. The humans had not disappeared. They had been busy, very busy, helping species that the council had never even contacted. Dr. Minho has been spotted on at least 12 worlds teaching advanced manufacturing techniques to local populations, continued Nex Ori. His holographic image was captured on surveillance devices, showing him working with alien engineers and scientists. More disturbing news followed. The human trader Kyung-Soo had been setting up independent trade networks that completely bypassed council space. Former human military officers like Captain So Young were training primitive species to become effective warriors. The display showed intercepted communications and spy footage of humans working closely with dozens of different alien species. They were not conquering or controlling these worlds. They were helping them become stronger and more advanced. Unji, who used to manage human trade operations in council space, has established what they call free trade zones. Continued Nex Ori. These zones operate under completely different rules than council commerce regulations. Species can trade directly with each other without going through council approval processes. The Wise One sent troubled thoughts to the assembled leaders. This is very concerning. The humans are not just helping random species. They are being very selective about who they contact. Every world they have visited controls important hyperspace routes or has valuable resources that we need. A new holographic map appeared, showing the strategic locations of human activity. The pattern was clear and frightening. The humans were systematically building a network of allied worlds that could control trade and travel across vast regions of space. They are creating their own government structure. Observed. Scientist Queldin. We intercepted a transmission fragment that mentioned something called the Free Systems Coalition. The message was encrypted, but we managed to decode part of it. The decoded message fragment appeared on the display in glowing text. It was signed by someone named Jae Sung, who was apparently coordinating activities across multiple star systems. The message talked about mutual defense agreements and shared technology programs and democratic decision-making. Admiral Krex pulled up military intelligence reports that were even more worrying. The humans are not just sharing civilian technology. Captain So Young has been training defense forces on 16 worlds. Her training methods are apparently revolutionary. The evidence was overwhelming. Every species that received human military training suddenly became much more effective at defending themselves. The Klaxon Confederacy had been terrorized by space pirates for decades, but after 3 months of human training, they had driven off the most dangerous pirate fleets in their region. "How is this possible?" asked Veltar. The Klaxons could barely maintain their old spacecraft. Now they are defeating enemies that have been successful for hundreds of years. The answer came from captured pirate communications that Admiral Krex displayed on the screen. The pirates were confused and frightened. They reported that Klaxon defense tactics were unlike anything they had encountered before. The humans taught them to fight in ways we never imagined, explained Admiral Krex. Instead of trying to match superior firepower, the Klaxons learned to use speed and coordination and surprise attacks. They turned their weaknesses into advantages. Similar stories were coming from across the Outer Rim regions. Species that had been weak and defenseless were suddenly becoming regional powers. The transformation was happening too quickly to be natural. It had to be the result of human intervention. But the most disturbing revelation came when Nex Ori activated a final display showing the scope of human activities. The red dots on the galaxy map had multiplied dramatically. In just 6 months, the humans had made contact with over 100 species. "They are not working slowly or carefully," he said. "They are moving fast and efficiently. Across vast distances, they seem to know exactly which species to contact and what each species needs most." The pattern suggested that humans had been planning this expansion for a very long time. They had detailed knowledge of species and resources, and strategic locations across regions of space that the Council had never properly explored. "The Free Systems Coalition is growing every day," continued Nex Ori. "Our intelligence estimates that they now control territory equivalent to 1/3 of Council space. And their influence is expanding rapidly." The alien leaders sat in stunned silence as they processed this information. In just 6 months, the humans had built a rival power structure that threatened everything. The Galaxy Council represented even worse. The humans were offering something that many species found very attractive: true equality and democratic participation and freedom from the rigid hierarchies that had always defined Council governance. "Species are not being conquered or forced to join," observed the Wise One. "They are choosing to work with humans because they like what humans are offering. This makes the coalition much more dangerous than any military threat." The meeting ended with the Council leaders facing a terrifying new reality. The humans had not simply left to go home and be isolated. They had systematically created a competing government that was growing stronger every day. And the most frightening part was that many species seemed to prefer the human approach over the traditional council system. The Galaxy Council was not just facing a military challenge. They were facing an ideological revolution that threatened their entire way of life. 1 full year had passed since the humans walked out of the Galaxy Council, and the universe had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The great crystal hall that once echoed with confident alien voices now felt empty and worried. The Free Systems Coalition was no longer just a rumor or a distant threat. It had become a real government that controlled vast regions of space and commanded the loyalty of hundreds of species. Many of these species had once been friends and allies. Of the Galaxy Council, Admiral Krex stood before the emergency assembly with reports that grew more disturbing each day. His gray stone-like face looked tired and defeated as he activated the holographic displays that showed the new reality. The Coalition now controls 37% of known galaxy space, he announced. The red areas on the star map had grown enormous, while the blue council territories looked smaller and more isolated. Trade routes that have operated for thousands of years are being disrupted by new economic partnerships. The displays showed shipping lanes that had been controlled by council species for millennia. Now these same routes were dominated by coalition vessels that moved freely between worlds that had never worked together before. Thexra, the warrior leader, slammed her clawed fist on the table repeatedly. "How is this possible?" she roared. 1 year ago, these species were primitive and weak. Now they are coordinating across vast distances like they have been allies for centuries. The answer came from intelligence reports that painted a picture of human efficiency that was almost unbelievable. General Boram, who had been a quiet observer during human membership in the council, had become something like a legend among coalition species. Her tactical innovations have revolutionized warfare across dozens of worlds, explained Admiral Krex. The defensive strategies she teaches make conquest nearly impossible, while her offensive techniques are devastatingly effective against our traditional military approaches. The evidence was overwhelming. Every species that received training from Boram became exponentially more capable of defending themselves and their allies. The old council approach of maintaining peace through superior firepower was becoming useless against enemies who fought with human tactics. But the military changes were only part of the problem. The coalition was also offering economic and social systems that many species found much more attractive than Council Governance. Counselor Veltar activated displays, showing defection reports that made the alien leaders feel sick inside. 3 minor species have already withdrawn from council membership to join the coalition, he said, his compound eyes reflecting deep worry. And our intelligence suggests that several major species are seriously considering similar moves. The defections were not random or emotional decisions. The species that left had carefully studied both systems and made logical choices based on what they wanted for their future. The coalition offered democratic participation, equal representation, and economic freedom that the council had never provided. The hegemony has been conducting secret negotiations with coalition representatives, reported Nexori. The tree-like intelligence leader, the hegemony, was one of the founding members of the Galaxy Council and had always been completely loyal. If they defected, it would be a disaster beyond imagination. The wise one sent troubled thoughts to the assembly. The humans are offering something we never considered important: true equality, regardless of species age or technological development. In the coalition, a newly contacted species has the same voice in government as the oldest members. This democratic approach was completely different from council traditions, where older species naturally had more authority and newer members were expected to accept junior status for centuries before gaining real influence. The human system appealed to species that were tired of being treated as less important. Scientist Queldan displayed intercepted communications from coalition space that showed how their democratic system actually worked. Every major decision was voted on by representatives from all member species. The discussions were open and transparent, with no secret meetings or hidden agendas. "Look at this recorded council session from coalition space," he said, activating an audio translation. "They are debating whether to help defend a species that is being attacked by pirates. Every member gets to speak. Every opinion is heard before they vote." The contrast with council operations was stark. The Galaxy Council made decisions through complex hierarchies and ancient protocols that could take months or years to resolve simple issues. The coalition seemed to make effective decisions quickly through open democratic processes. Even more disturbing were reports about coalition military capabilities. General Boram had not just trained individual species. She had taught them to work together as a unified force. Our latest intelligence indicates that coalition species are conducting joint military exercises, reported Admiral Kreck's species that were enemies just 2 years ago are now training together and sharing resources. Their combined military capability may already exceed our own. The implications were terrifying. The Galaxy Council had always maintained peace through superior technology and overwhelming force. But the coalition was developing military strength that could match or exceed Council capabilities, while also maintaining the moral authority that came from democratic governance. The economic reports were equally disturbing. Former human traders like Kyung-soo and Yoon-ji had created trade networks that operated more efficiently than Council Commerce Systems. Coalition trade operates on principles of mutual benefit and fair exchange, explained the economic analysis team. Traditional Council trade was based on complex regulations and tribute systems that favored older species. The coalition approach was simpler and more profitable for all participants. Species were not just switching sides because of military or political reasons. They were making practical economic decisions. The coalition offered better trade terms, more technological sharing, and fewer bureaucratic obstacles. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the situation was how the humans had achieved all this without any direct confrontation with the Council. They had not declared war, or made threats or demanded territory. They had simply offered the galaxy a better alternative. Ambassador Taeho delivered the final human message to the Council, explained Nexori. The message was brief but devastating. It said that the galaxy was large enough for multiple approaches to civilization, and that history would judge which system served the galaxy better. The human strategy had been brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to reform the Council from within or challenging it directly, they had built a competing system that was demonstrably superior. The coalition was not conquering worlds. It was convincing them. As the meeting continued, the Council leaders faced the uncomfortable reality that their ancient system was being outcompeted by human innovation. The coalition was growing not through force, but through genuine appeal. The humans had studied the Council for 3 years, learning every weakness and limitation. Then they had created solutions for all the problems that species had with Council governance. The result was a system that many species preferred over 10,000 years of Council tradition. Empty seats in the Council chamber represented species that had already made their choice. More empty seats appeared each month as additional species decided that the coalition offered a better future than the Council. The age of unquestioned Council dominance was ending not through war or catastrophe, but through the simple reality that someone had built something better. The humans who had once seemed like naive students seeking guidance had become the architects of a new galactic order, and the most painful part was that the Council had taught them everything they needed to know to make it happen. 2 full years had passed since Jinwoo walked out of the Galaxy Council chambers, and the ancient institution that had ruled space for 10,000 years was facing its final crisis. The great crystal hall that had once been filled with hundreds of alien delegates now echoed with the voices of only a few dozen remaining loyal species. The impossible had happened. The hegemony, one of the 3 founding members of the Galaxy Council, had announced their intention to join the Free Systems Coalition. The news hit the remaining Council members like a physical blow that left them stunned and speechless. Veltar stood before the nearly empty assembly hall, his compound eyes reflecting the defeat that everyone felt in their hearts. The hegemony delegation delivered their formal withdrawal notice this morning. He announced in a voice that sounded tired and old. Our oldest allies have chosen to abandon us. The hegemony had been with the Council since the very beginning. They had helped write the original laws and treaties that governed galactic civilization. For them to leave meant that the Council had lost not just political support, but also legitimacy and moral authority. The withdrawal statement was read aloud to the Assembly, and its words cut deep into the hearts of the remaining Council members. The hegemony representatives explained that they could no longer support a system that treated some species as more important than others. They wanted to be part of a government where every Voice mattered equally. Admiral Krex displayed the latest territorial maps that showed the true scope of the disaster. The Coalition now controlled over 60% of known galaxy space, while Council territory had shrunk to isolated pockets that were scattered across the remaining regions. "We are no longer the dominant power in the galaxy," he admitted with obvious pain in his voice. "The Coalition has more member species, more territory, more resources, and more advanced military capabilities than we do." The transformation had been swift and decisive. What had started as a human withdrawal from Council membership had become a complete restructuring of galactic civilization. The Coalition had grown from nothing to become the largest government in the galaxy in just 2 years. The speed of change was unprecedented in galactic history. Usually, political transformations took centuries or millennia to complete, but the humans had somehow accelerated the process through their superior organizational skills and democratic principles. The wise one who had served the Council longer than any other member sent final thoughts to the remaining delegates. "We underestimated the humans completely. We saw their eagerness to please as weakness. We interpreted their questions as naive curiosity. We mistook their cooperation for subservience. The truth was much more humbling. The humans had never been weak or naive. They had been patient and strategic. They had spent 3 years studying the Council not to learn how to be better members but to learn how to build something better. Every human representative had been gathering intelligence while appearing to be a grateful student. Ambassador Jinwoo had asked detailed questions about Council history and legal precedents not out of curiosity, but to identify weaknesses and opportunities for improvement. Captain So-young had attended every military briefing, not to coordinate better with Council forces, but to understand Council military doctrine, so she could develop superior tactics. Dr. Min-ho had studied Council technology, not to catch up with advanced civilizations, but to see what innovations the Council had missed. The systematic intelligence gathering had been hidden behind a facade of humble gratitude that completely fooled the Council leadership. The humans had been playing a game that was far more sophisticated than anyone realized. The final blow came when the Coalition sent their own message to the remaining Council members. It was delivered by Ambassador Taeho, who had been chosen to represent the Coalition in all future dealings with the Council. The message was respectful, but firm. The Coalition had no intention of conquering or destroying the Council. They simply wanted to coexist as an alternative form of government. The galaxy was large enough for multiple approaches to civilization, but the message also made clear that the Coalition would welcome any Council species that wanted to join them. The door was always open for species that preferred democratic governance over hierarchical traditions. This generous offer was perhaps the most devastating part of the entire situation. The Coalition was not being cruel or vindictive toward their former teachers. They were simply offering a better alternative and letting species choose for themselves. The choice was becoming obvious to everyone. More species were choosing the Coalition every month because it offered something that the Council had never provided: true equality and democratic participation and economic freedom. Counselor Nexori presented the final intelligence report that confirmed what everyone already knew. The Coalition was not just larger and more powerful than the Council. It was also more innovative and more adaptable and more attractive to species that wanted a voice in their own governance coalition. "Science programs are advancing faster than ours," he reported. "Their democratic approach to research allows them to pursue multiple projects simultaneously. While our hierarchical system slows down innovation, coalition trade networks are more efficient than ours. Their free market principles create more wealth for all participants, while our regulated systems mainly benefit older species. Coalition military forces are more effective than ours. Their coordinated training programs and shared resources create defensive capabilities that exceed what any individual species could achieve alone." Every comparison favored the Coalition over the Council. The human approach to government was simply better in almost every measurable way. As the final session of the Galaxy Council came to an end, the remaining delegates faced the painful reality that their ancient institution had been outcompeted by newcomers who had learned from their mistakes. The Council had lasted for 10,000 years, not because it was the best possible system, but because no one had ever offered an alternative. Now that an alternative existed, species were choosing it over council membership. The humans had accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. They had toppled the most powerful government in the galaxy, not through warfare or revolution, but through superior organization and democratic innovation. The empty council chambers echoed with the footsteps of departing delegates as the last few loyal species made their final decisions. Several announced that they too would be joining the coalition within the coming months. The age of the HFY Galaxy Council was over. Not because it had been destroyed, but because something better had taken its place. The humans had proven that even the most ancient and powerful institutions could be replaced if someone was willing to build a superior alternative. Somewhere in coalition space, former Ambassador Jin Woo was reading reports about the latest species to join their democratic alliance. He smiled as he remembered the day he had walked out of the council chambers 2 years ago. The humans had always been teachers, but they had taught their most important lesson, not through words, but through actions. They had shown the galaxy that there was no limit to what could be achieved when all voices were heard and all species were treated as equals. The Galaxy Council had been a monument to hierarchy and tradition. But the Free Systems Coalition was something new. A government built on the revolutionary idea that democracy and equality could work even across the vast distances and cultural differences of galactic civilization. The humans had won not through superior technology or military force, but through superior ideas. And those ideas were now spreading across the galaxy, creating a new era of cooperation and freedom that would last for thousands of years to come.